got my motorcycle license. Just a note, my parents are here in the audience, and this is the first you're hearing about this, so Mom and Dad, I am sorry. Why did I get my license? Well, it was not something I'd ever considered until I learned that one of my friends, who is also female, had a bike. And suddenly, the idea felt equal parts accessible, terrifying, and exciting, in part because I just wanted to see what would happen. And I've come to learn over the past few years that when I feel those things, I cannot turn away. I have to see them through. So within the week, I signed up for a 2-day, 22-hour motorcycle course. And when I showed up, I was the only woman in a class of 18 students. So what I thought would be a relatively challenging but straightforward weekend became a fascinating study in gender. For example, the instructor asked us all to go around the room, say our concerns, what we were excited about, and somehow, I was the only person to have any, at least to say aloud, any real concerns. Everyone else was just excited. Some had already bought motorcycles or they knew which models they were going to get. And I realized then that many of these students had long ago visualized themselves on a bike. Maybe from the time they were very young. And maybe this was in part because the idea, the image of a man on a motorcycle was so much more common. It was a natural component for these students to add to their identity, whereas I felt very much out of place. During the classroom section, I was the only one to take copious notes, and I was also the first to finish the written exam. But when it came to the range, things were a lot more touch and go. Riding a motorcycle is hard. There is a lot to keep track of just when it comes to the bike's basic operations, let alone what you need to know in a million scenarios you never think twice about when driving a car. This might be embarrassing to admit, but my parents still handle all of my car's maintenance, so my mechanical knowledge coming into this was limited at best. In addition, it was hard not to feel this social anxiety about messing up, or looking stupid, or letting my gender down as its only representative. We did everything in group exercises, mostly in a circle. So if you slow down the entire class. Because I was nervous, I tended to go a little bit slower. One student kept trying to pass me, which you're not allowed to do, but it didn't help with my feeling inadequate. By the end of that first day, I felt so physically, emotionally, and mentally exhausted. I wondered if it was worth coming back just to continue feeling those things. Fortunately, I had friends to encourage me, and realizing that discomfort was exactly why I needed to come back, I did. When we took our skills test the next day, my bike stalled within the very first few minutes. So my foot touched the ground, I assumed I'd failed. My first instinct was relief. I wanted to hop off that bike, walk away from the entire ordeal, pretend it had never happened, I never tried to do this. But a little voice told me that women systematically underestimate themselves and are usually underconfident for no reason. So I decided not to be my own worst enemy and take myself out before somebody else did. Several grueling hours later, when I found out I did pass, I asked the instructor if he was sure, and then I asked if he was sure again, and again, and whether he was going to change his mind. But he wasn't. And although I will probably never ride a motorcycle again, because if there's anything I learned from that course, it is that they are very dangerous. Mom, don't worry. It was the ultimate validation of seeking out and confronting fear and discomfort, and coming out the other side feeling accomplished, exhilarated, and capable. I want to return to this idea of image, identity, and representation. Part of the reason I wanted to do this whole motorcycle thing was that it fits so far outside of how I've historically perceived myself. For most of my life, as many of us do, I took cues for who I should be from what I saw around me. Before I could even walk, I was obsessed with Barbies and princesses, a whole culture of pink. And I came to believe that beauty was the single most important quality a girl could possess. The beautiful princess was always the protagonist, the most loved, the most worthy of being loved. And she received, note the passive verb, she received everything based chiefly on the value of her appearance, including the charming prince. When I was a kid, I daydreamed about growing up one day and having a boyfriend. The way boys daydream about, riding a motorcycle, with all the freedom and agency that represents, as well as its own limiting code of masculinity. But this needs to be beautiful, desired, and therefore valued as a human being is something I deeply internalized, not only from my toys and the media, but from every single adult who ever commented on my appearance. And it happened often, I think, because telling a little girl she's pretty is an easy thing for adults to say when they're trying to build rapport with kids. But when it happens again and again and again, what is that kid going to think is important? The other cue I absorbed was that I was supposed to be smart. Because I was, and Asian, and that's what Asian kids in all the movies and TV shows were. There are also always the side characters, which I know is a surprise to nobody in this room. So on my 6th birthday, when I received this Asian Barbie doll, Kira, from a kindergarten classmate, I was very upset. I started to cry immediately. And that's because, I couldn't explain why because I was 6, but as an adult, I can say it's because I knew I was the protagonist of my own life. I deserved to be the main Barbie, the white Barbie, and I was upset that my classmates couldn't see that. But they and everyone else did expect me to be smart. So suffice it to say, throughout my entire educational career, I have been a try-hard, and my dream school was Stanford. So I think it's just really intriguing that at that time, I felt these two ideas to be in conflict, being smart and being pretty. So when the opportunity arose, junior year of high school, to compete in a pageant, I took it. And again, I couldn't know this at the time, but I know now that I was seeking some sort of validation. Because if I competed in a beauty pageant and I won, nobody could say I wasn't pretty. Which is ridiculous, because nobody was saying that, nobody cared, why did it matter? But the importance of this was so internalized for me. Later on in college, I would come across this concept by a writer, Florence Frank-Carucha, that really struck me. She theorized that women can operate in 2 spheres, a system of power and a system of beauty. In the system of beauty, women are a natural resource. We are a form of acquirable wealth, and our currency is our beauty. Oftentimes, the most economically successful women you can think models, actresses, musicians, celebrities, are those who use beauty to their utmost advantage. Alternatively, women can choose to enter the system of power. Power meaning the acquisition of status, capital, position, knowledge, or property without exploiting their physical appearance. Women can operate, sometimes we have to operate in both. We can try to create a space for ourselves in the workplace, the system of power, while operating the system of beauty in our private lives. And that's why attractive and capable women are often valued more than their less glamorous or fit peers. They are seen as triumphs in 2 systems of value, double threats. Basically, there's an expectation that women be perfect. But trying to be perfect is dangerous, it's unlimiting, it's unproductive, and this expectation is very limiting. If you're trying to be perfect, you're putting yourself into a box. If you're not going anywhere interesting. Again, at 17, I wasn't thinking about these things. My first pageant turned out to be an extremely positive, informative experience. I'd sit on a stage like this, answered a question, felt like adults were actually listening to what I had to say, and for the very first time, like what I had to say could matter. And I think that's the perfect example of why pageants are such complicated vehicles for both empowering women and perpetuating standards of beauty and pleasing feminine presentation. I ended up winning that local pageant, didn't place at the state level, but it became my dream to compete in Miss California down the line. When I eventually did go to Stanford, I did things within my comfort level. I became an English major because I have, do, and always will love words. I interned at the Stanford Law School magazine, and I became president of my sorority. The things I did not do were to venture too far outside the Asian American community, take more than 1 math or computer science class or any physics class in my life ever, in part because I didn't identify with those things, and because I turned away from things when I did not meet with immediate and resounding success. I did compete in another pageant, though not Miss California, because that I wanted too badly. And I never quite felt ready because I was never quite perfect. The next year, I tell myself, I'd have accomplished more things, and I'd have a more impressive resume, I'd be better at my talent. And before I knew it, I had only 1 more chance to compete. So in a leap of faith, I quit my job as a paralegal and spent 2 months preparing for a local title, Miss Silicon Valley, which went well. But during my talent at Miss California, I had a terrible case of stage fright in front of hundreds of people. I stumbled catastrophically through my piano song and essentially ran off the stage crying, knowing I'd blown my first and last shot at a dream I'd held for 7 years. Basically, it was a mess, and I was inconsolable for a time. My friend and roommate for that week, Miss Santa Clara, was very sympathetic at first, but she had a much wider diversity of experiences than I'd had, and when she was tired of my self-pity, she asked me if I'd ever failed at anything before, if anything had ever gone badly for me. And I realized that it had not. All my life, I've been trying to construct and reaffirm this identity that prioritized intelligence and appearance. I was trying to seem perfect. And anything that challenged that can make me look bad, or that I did not have a 60 to 70% chance of succeeding in, I avoided. And because of that, I hadn't grown very much. I mean, yeah, I did things, but I wasn't well equipped to take risks, absorb failure, gain confidence, and progress. All the other girls who did well at Miss California, they didn't wait to be perfect. They went for a local title every year. They competed at state, they lost, learned, repeated, and got a little bit better every time. It took losing something that I wanted so badly, even if it was just a pageant, for me to realize I needed to have that experience more often. And I really needed to question all the ways my self-perception had held me back. And one thing I really needed to question was why I always had a boyfriend. Between the ages of 15 and 25, I had 5 long-term monogamous relationships, almost continuously. I was never single for more than 60 days at a time. I mean, that's part of the whole princess thing, right? There needed to be a prince. And until I was 25, I never doubted that I would eventually, grow up, get married, and have kids, and that would just tie a neat little ribbon on my life. But the thing about relationships is that they can make you complacent, because you never have to be alone, and they can unduly inform your self-worth. Because if somebody else loves you and values you, you can believe you are okay. During breakups, I would realize with blunt, traumatic force all the areas of my life that I hadn't developed. I hadn't invested as strongly in other relationships, other friendships, and I didn't know who I was if I wasn't half a couple. I realized this every time, but find it easier to jump back into a new relationship, or sometimes, the same one, than to confront solitude. When my last relationship ended about a year after Miss California, I was surprised by how liberated I felt. Sure, there was sadness, loneliness, fear, but there was also freedom. My days became my own, and I had more questions. How could I work to divorce my self-worth from external romantic validation, and relatedly validation based on my physical appearance? And if I never had a family, never got married, what could a meaningful, fulfilling, and happy life look like decade after decade? I don't know where the idea came from, but I set aside being single for 1 year as a personal goal. I actually bought several calendars in which I would literally mark off and count the days. And I still do out of habit. Today is day 570. And the past 570 days have been a meaningfully imperfect exercise in deconstructing my identity, negotiating my relationship with beauty, attempting to do and create things with more substance, and learning how to be independent alone, a full, complete human being by myself. It's been the greatest adventure, making up for 11 years of complacency by chasing new experiences, meeting new people, and building a community by whom I feel truly loved, supported, and surrounded. And over the past 570 days, some of the most interesting and emotionally rewarding things I did were things that scared me a little, like riding a motorcycle, things that made me feel nervous, where there was potentially a bad outcome, although often it was just an uncertain one. The more I did those things, the more excitement I felt for the new and unknown. It became a habit. I felt conditioned to chasing that little twinge of fear and uncertainty and telling myself, I just want to see what happens. Because what happened was that my world kept getting bigger and bigger. And these are things I would encourage everyone to do, to examine and deconstruct your own identity, because to an extent, we all absorb notions of who we should be and what we should be good at from what people expect from us, and how people perceive to be like us are represented. I'm going to challenge you to really think about who you think you are, and in what ways that may have been limiting. I'm also going to challenge you to pay attention to when you feel that twinge of fear or uncertainty. I'm not talking about mortal fears. If you're scared of heights or snakes, you can be scared of heights or snakes. I'm talking about things you might shy away from because you could embarrass yourself. Success is not guaranteed, and that might make you look bad. Things that make you anxious, that challenge your identity. One example I have that might seem silly is that I used to wear makeup every day, and my manager, who was also here, pushed me on that. She challenged me to come into the office without any. I think we were both surprised by how visceral my reaction was, because I was used to presenting my best physical face to the world, and it made me feel extremely vulnerable not to have that defense. But few things should have that kind of control over you, least of all makeup. So I stopped. I sleep an extra 45 minutes most days, and I haven't looked back. The more you immerse yourself in fear and discomfort, the more you accommodate yourself to them, the more you'll power through to the other side, where you're going to find accomplishment, confidence, and a sense of capability. Your world is going to get bigger and bigger, and you're not going to look back. Thank you.